Hi everyone, this is your Wednesday's English lesson and we're finally getting to our problem, our dilemma. Something is going to go wrong for Mr. Howard Carter. How exciting! So we're going to look at our success criteria again. It's slightly changed as our writing has changed to use onomatopoeia. So I'm going to go through what onomatopoeia means. We have done it in class, but some of us might have forgotten. We're still using those high-level verbs. I don't want him walking. I don't want him seeing. I don't want him carrying something. I really want to use those year 5 words. If you can't think of it, I expect you to go onto Google, or if you've got internet access, or if you can find a thesaurus lying around the house and really try and use a better synonym to use for your verbs. We're going to start using speech again in this paragraph. He's going to be talking. We're going to create a climax problem, so something is definitely going to go wrong. We're still using those show not tells and 5 sentences, and we're going to really increase the use of our similes in this paragraph. So overall, we're going to write our climax paragraph where something has gone wrong, allowing our audience to be drawn in and on the edge of their seat. So as you can see on this plot mountain here, so we've gone from our story, we've done an introduction, he's gone down the steps, he's gone into the antechamber. We rise in the action a little bit as we've brought the suspense throughout the burial chamber and now into the treasury. And now we're going to reach that point of the climax, so something is definitely going to go wrong. And in that point, our climax is something has been stolen. Whoa, something's been stolen from the chamber. It could be from the antechamber, it could be from the burial chamber. That choice is up to you. So our paragraph is all this section here, all about the climax. I'm going to do it in red just so you know how important it is. Climax, climax, climax. There we go. Okay. So here is my model text. We've just come from the treasury and Howard is there collecting and numbering the treasury items. So he's still remaining there, and then suddenly something goes wrong. I'm going to read it to you. Again, keep in mind something of the success criteria that was right at the beginning of this slide, and read along with me. A sudden clatter caught Howard's attention from collecting and numbering the treasury items. The echo of the racket bounced through the walls, and a rush of adrenaline shot through Howard's veins. This made his eyes bulge and his whole body freeze. He crouched, holding his breath, awaiting another sound. Boom! A blast that sounded like someone had set off a firework from within his skull. He instantly jammed his finger in his ears and burrowed his head amongst his core. Then silence. Howard waited for what felt like a lifetime before removing his fingers, yet this ringing sound persisted as his senses recovered from the uproar. Howard jolted forwards, heading back towards the burial chamber. There he discovered a cloud of dust and sand filling the air. Looking like the foggiest of moors, Howard could not see simply 2 feet in front of him. What would have ignited such a commotion? He pondered. His torchlight blinked, and after wavering in frantically like a sword in the direction of the sarcophagus, he realized what had made the destruction. The solid sarcophagus stone lid, which had been left in the perfect condition, propped up against the chamber walls, was shattered like glass on the floor. "Is anyone there?" Howard called with a nervous shake crackling through his voice. Nothing. He reversed back, retracing his steps through the cobweb-draped tomb to investigate. His eyes frantically circled the antechamber, and his heart plummeted to his stomach. From the far corner, the chest had gone, which had all the priceless jewels encased within. Howard's pride disappeared along with it. Ooh. So here we have our model text again. So I've changed our success criteria only slightly to see if we can adapt it for our climax situation of our story. So onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like the sound. So for example, I've just got one in here. I want you to see if you can point at it, if you can shout it at the screen, and you should have shouted this one in capital letters here, boom. So it is a word that describes a sound, but it sounds the same as the word, which sounds a little bit silly. So I'm going to give you a few more examples. So we've got drip. So the word drip actually sounds like the sound drip, like dripping from a tap. We've got boom, we've got crash, crash sounds like a crash, we've got bang, all those words that describe a sound and it sounds very similar. So I've done it to describe, obviously, when the sarcophagus falls is that boom. It's a huge sound. So that's why I've used onomatopoeia. You could use it more than once, but I just chose to use it once. High level verbs, again, he didn't walk, he didn't talk, he didn't move. We wanted to make sure that we're making his verbs really up level. So it caught Howard's attention. We didn't say the racket bounced throughout the walls. This made his eyes bulge and he crouched. I've got here. I've also got that he jammed his fingers. He didn't just put his fingers in his ears, he jammed them in. I've also got that he jolted forwards. So he didn't just move forwards, he jolted, which tells me that's a little bit of show not tell as well, that he's gone forwards quite quickly if he's jolted. I've also got that he pondered, so he's like questioning, that's some show not tell. His torchlight blinked, which is also some personification, because as we know, personification is when we give a human act to a non-human object. So obviously a torch can't blink, but think about what imagery that could create for our reader, that maybe it's switching on and off, that maybe it's quite vigorous, that maybe it's closed and it's closed its shutter so it's not giving any light as much, maybe it's flickering. I've also got he called as my verb. I could have said shouted, I could have said that he whispered it, I could have said that he murmured it, I could have said that he cried it. So I've got lots of different verbs that I could have used there. We've got that he reversed back, so he didn't just move backwards, he reversed. That shows me a little bit more about how he moved in our show not tell. His eyes frantically, they circled it, so he didn't just look around it, his eyes were circling. So I've got quite a lot of verbs in there that make it much better. My speech is going to continue in tomorrow's paragraph as well. So my simple speech is just one little sentence, is anyone there? But I have punctuated it correctly. I've done a speech mark before I've started what he says, after I've started what I've said, and plus he is asking a question, so the punctuation goes inside the speech mark, not outside, inside the speech mark. So he's just done one question and he's asking, is anybody there? Because remember, he didn't feel quite alone anymore, so obviously somebody or something is down there with him. We've got some show not tells as always, so something that's happening. He's holding his breath, telling me that he's suspenseful, he might not want to make a sound. Maybe he's got his fingers in his ears, obviously that tells me that he's in pain and something, he doesn't want any of the sound going through. Howard jolted forward, again I spoke about that little section before. We've also got he couldn't see, simply a nervous shake of his voice telling me what he's feeling. I've also got his heart plummeted to his stomach. I could talk about his heart racing. I could talk about his palms sweating once he sees something stolen. So I've definitely got some show not tells about how he's feeling. His whole body froze, I've got here. So when your whole body freezes, you're obviously in shock, something's happened. So I've got that one up there as well. I've got the rush of adrenaline going through his body, through his veins. That also tells me that he's ready to fight or ready to fly, or something shocked him so much that his body's gone into overdrive. And I've also got our senses as well. I've mostly talked about what he can hear this time, about him, the sound sounds like a firework going through his skull. I've talked about it going through his ears. I've also talked about what he can see, about the cloud of dust and the sand filling the air. That would be a nice opportunity to maybe talk about the sand that touches on his lips and makes his throat dry and ashy, or maybe he's like inhaled a lot of smoke and sand and cloud of dust and it makes him cough or it makes him sneeze. So that would be quite a nice opportunity that I could up level my work for my senses. I've mostly got what he can see. I've also got what he's touched a little bit, about the cobwebs draping through, and what he can see. He's touching his torch as it's racing around, and he's waving it frantically like a sword, so that tells me that he's touching. And then again, I've got my similes, so I'm going to do that in green, and remember that's like or as, and I can write it here as well. And I've used quite a lot in here because I want to really produce that imagery for my reader that it was like something. It was very comparative language, it's similar. So I've done it like a firework, because obviously we know fireworks are really loud, so imagine it setting off from within your skull. How loud would that be? I've also talked about like and as in here, so it was like a foggy moor, the foggiest of moor. I've also got that it was like a sword, that he waved his torch. I have down here, if I have any, cobweb draped tomb. No, I don't think I have any down here, so maybe I could add a few more. And remember, we've got some personification that I would like to see, that I spoke about a little bit before, which has been on our success criteria for quite a while. And that, I just love personification, because we all know a human quality that we have, and if we give it to an object, it really does bring that object to life. Personification. Excuse my silly writing on PowerPoint with my mouse pad, but that's what I'd like to see as well. Yeah, make it look all shiny. There we go. So see if I can find any in here. You find it like a sword. I did it about that it blinked, that the torch blinked. I've also talked about the dust being like a cloud. That was more a simile, but I could say the cloud, what does a human do that fills the room? The cloud stretched amongst the burial chamber. So maybe I could have improved it by adding some personification there. So now it's your turn. So what I want you to think about is Howard is in the burial chamber. That's where we've left him, in the treasury, collecting things or looking around. Something has to happen. And the thing I want the climax to be in your story is something gets stolen. I don't mind what it is. It could be anything that you've mentioned in your story from that antechamber or from the burial chamber. So it could be the death mask, it could be the chariot, it could be treasures, it could be canopic jars, it could be anything, but something gets stolen. But also this thief does something that scares Howard. So obviously mine was that he shattered the sarcophagus stone lid. It's very similar to what happened in our Phoenix Code book, that he'd done like something to distract and deter Howard away that scares him. And then he comes out and he realizes something has been stolen. So that is something that I want you to mirror in your own story. Remembering you can use my success criteria and you refer back to it. That's what I want you to do. But you can use my model text as well. You may magpie, so you can have a look at it. You can steal some words, you can steal some ideas, but don't do your whole paragraph very similar to mine, because that's just stealing my idea, and I want to know what you can do at home. So have a go. What's been stolen? I'm really excited to have a read of it. And then tomorrow our climax continues and we go into our chase scene. Enjoy.